Okay, let's look at this Alex topic, ordering numbers with negative exponents. So you'll notice we have these powers, and the powers have a negative in them. You need to remember that a negative in a power does not affect the number's sign. A negative in a power goes back to the rule that says if I have a raised to the negative n, then we rewrite that as 1 over a to the positive n, as long as a is not equal to 0. So what this negative power does, it just kind of, if you think of it as relocating, it relocates the base with the power. So looking at these, my first problem is 4 to the negative 1, and I want to compare it to 1/4 to the negative 1. Those are my two comparisons. So if I go back to what the rule says that if I have a base raised to a power and that power is negative, then I rewrite it as 1 over the base raised to the power. So that would be 1/4, because 4 to the first is 4th. Now, when we have a fraction and we are raising it to a negative power, what ends up happening is the same thing. We still get the 1 over, but if I take 1 over 1 to the 4th, and I have to use the rules that I know, because this means 1 divided by 1/4, I would rewrite that as 1 times 4 over 1, which is just 4. So what happens with a fraction with a negative power is that the numerator and the denominator switch places. So this becomes 4 over 1 raised to the first power, which is just 4. So now I'm comparing 1/4 and 4. Well, obviously 4 is bigger. So we would say that 4 to the negative 1 is smaller than 1/4 to the negative 1. So if we look at the second one, so this is the first one. The second one says 4 to the negative 2, and I want to compare that to 1/4 to the negative 2. So the same thing happens. Because the power is negative, this means 1 over 4 squared, which is 1/16, because 4 squared is 4 times 4. So now I'm comparing 1/16 with 1/4 to the negative 2, which we have the fraction and we have a negative power, so that tells me that the numerator and the denominator switch places. So that's 4 over 1 squared, which is just 4 squared, and 4 squared means 4 times 4, which is 16. So 16 is bigger than 1 over 16, so our relationship says 4 to the negative 2 is less than 1/4 to the negative 2. So let's look at the third one. So for the third one, I have 1/4 to the negative 2, and we want to compare that to 1/4 to the negative 1. So this time I have two fractions, so I know the numerator and the denominator switch places. So I get 4 over 1 squared and 4 over 1 to the first, which means 4 squared and 4 to the first, and 4 squared is 4 times 4, and 4 to the first is just 4, and 16 is bigger than 4. So I would say that 4 over 1/4 to the negative 2 is bigger than 1/4 to the negative 1.